Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fitaurus' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu for this Saturday, we have Hawkwing, a 16-bit inspired shoot 'em up from one-man team Los Gecko Studio. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. As we jump to the main menu, we see that we have two options for play, arcade and story, and there's also a blacked out survival. As it stands right now, Hawkwing is a one-stage demo, basically a proof of concept that I hope Los Gecko Studio will develop into a full game, as what's here is definitely interesting. We'll be playing arcade today. As we select the arcade mode, we're taken to a quick tutorial that just basically explains our buttons. We of course have our shot. There is the ability to bomb, but you sacrifice a module or option, if you will, to use said bomb. A barrel roll / dodge, which we'll get to. And throw weapon, which allows you to throw a weapon icon, basically downgrading your weapon. There are times that could be useful. Then we have the ability to select our pilot, Oceana or Igarashi. They're just basically palette swaps, so we'll go ahead and take the P1 palette and start stage 1. So if you hold down your fire button, the weapon has a decent rate of fire, but it is possible to tap fire to get a much more rapid shot. So that's what we'll mainly be using for our playthrough today. Some enemies we encounter will drop power-ups. These power-ups will cycle through 4 available options: weapon, speed, shield, and add. The weapon, of course, powers up our weapon 1 level. Speed will allow us to go a little faster. Shield gives us a shield, and add adds additional modules surrounding our ship. A little bit of extra firepower, and of course the bombs. Your current level in all of these is indicated down below in the bottom left or right if you're playing 2-player of the screen. I do like that feature with the WCSS represented down there. There are notches around each of the various icons, so you can see what level you're at and what level you can potentially obtain. The only criticism I would have there is that S is used twice, so for shield I think it would be beneficial to do something like maybe B for barrier, maybe, just a suggestion. So here's a great place to show off the dodge mechanic. Those missiles were coming at us, but we can just dodge right around them. So this enemy here, though the main ship itself does have a red flash indicating we're damaging it, I haven't been able to ever completely defeat this thing. At least not until the appropriate time. So we'll just dance around this guy. So the weapon drop, as I mentioned, allows us to downgrade our weapon should we find ourselves in a scenario where we need a different powered weapon. So we press that, we drop the weapon power up. One thing to note is that power-up does become a standard power-up, so it will cycle through the other options for power-up. So you could use that as a way to get a shield back if you lost it at an inappropriate time, and you'd be alright with sticking to just a lower level weapon. As your weapons cycle through the first level, which is of course just a straight shot, the second level, which is a hunter homing style weapon, although it doesn't home the entire screen, it just kind of arcs towards enemies. A wave, which does move through walls, and then this awesome laser. So here we can connect to this huge blaster, but we're not going to take that with us, as it slows the movement speed down substantially and also immobilizes us when we fire it. The additional firepower is nice for the upcoming boss fight, but isn't necessary. Another neat feature with the dodge is it's possible to move through terrain without taking damage. That's not necessarily something we need to do, but for future stages, it would be really neat to see sections where you had to dodge past terrain to move through the level. I think there's a lot of promise with that kind of feature. Wait for this to cycle around to add, maybe? Yes. And we find ourselves at Stage 1's boss. So his life is indicated on the bottom of the screen, with starting as a yellow bar and revealing red beneath. So as the battle's moved on, the massive cannon starts moving around, indicating it's about to fire. So we want to be careful for that. As we get his bar down to its second level, his attack patterns do change a little bit. But with our awesome ability to dodge, barrel roll out of things, we'll just dance around him. For some extra points at the end, let's use some bombs. And down. Congratulations. You should try harder. Take a second to enter in our initials, and I'll give you my closing thoughts on Hawkwing. Fit for Fitaurus. So my overall impressions of Hawkwing are very positive. I really like what I see here in this demo. We have a really neat look feel that really captures the essence of the 16-bit era shoot 'em up. We also have a great CRT filter that is present here. The way that it bends around the screen and just the little distortion you have there is perfect. I also love the dodge mechanic that was present there. The ability to just dance around the enemies is so much fun. Some of the minus flavors I do have against it, I feel like the hitbox is absolutely gigantic. I know that was common in that era, but in a day and age where oftentimes the hitbox is mere pixels wide, it's hard to get around that, truth be told. And then another complaint is that the invulnerability frames present in the game itself when you die are not long enough, at least not for my personal playstyle. I love to jump in there and deal extra damage somewhat recklessly when I die with those invulnerability frames, and they wear off almost instantly, so that's one complaint that I'd have. The game can be played in 2-player mode, which is awesome and great to see in a title that's only this far along. But it did have a little bit of glitches with my bit of experimenting with it. If one player was out of lives, and then the other player died but still had lives in reserve, it would still give you a game over. So there is that. But overall, as I said, I love what I see here. The possibilities with the dodge mechanic and the way that you can manage your weaponry / other power-ups through being able to drop a weapon to get yourself a power-up icon is great. So hopefully Los Gecko Studio will continue to develop this title and we'll see even more Hawkwing. If we do, maybe I'll revisit it at some point in the future. Anyway, that should wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, thank you so much for coming out and joining me. If you're interested in trying out Hawkwing for yourself, I'll include the link to the demo in the description below, so definitely check that out. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for coming out and joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.